has any objections. I did ask ahead of time. All right, well, welcome everyone, especially my beloved Eridanus Intro to Coding cohort. This is your next steps meeting. As you know, hopefully, you're in week 12 of 16 of your program and you'll almost be done. And soon you'll have to choose what next class you want to go into. Code the Dream has, your options are Node Express or Ruby on Rails for the back end, and React for the front end. And it can be a little intimidating trying to choose which one to take. I personally think there's not really a wrong answer unless you have very strong opinions on it. But this is what this session is for. With us today, I have gathered some friends to share some experiences of how they feel about how to choose where to go when you're planning your career, and just general things about your coding journey as you're starting out. I'll have y'all introduce yourself one by one. Let's do name, pronouns, what tech stacks you use at work or main ones you use at work. I know sometimes it's gets mixed up a bit. And your favorite one if it's different than that. And anything else you might want to add for the intro. I'll have Amanda start us off.
Cool, thanks. Hey everyone, I'm Amanda. My pronouns are she, her. I guess I can talk about what I do right now also. Right now I live outside of DC in one of the suburbs in Virginia, and I'm a government contractor because that's what everyone does who lives in the DC area, it feels like. So I work for the Department of Homeland Security, which is very fun. And the stack that I work on right now is Ruby on Rails and React, which is actually exactly what we learned at our coding bootcamp. So it's really convenient. And I really like React. Personally, I think it's very fun to build, and I really like front end stuff. So that's more of my forte. I can do Rails stuff, but don't ask me too many questions because that part of my brain has grown quite rusty. That's a little bit about me.
Thanks. Nathaniel, how about you?
Hi, yeah, I'm Nathaniel Jones. My pronouns are he/him. I am a staff software engineer at ezCater, which is basically like Uber, but for people who need to cater, or rather businesses who need to cater large amounts of food all at once for events or their employees or that kind of thing. Let's see, we use Ruby on Rails and React, and also Postgres, which is the best database. I have you all here. You have to listen to me, so you'll have to hear that Postgres is the best database. And I guess a little bit more about me. I've been software engineer for about 20 years now, and I think I'm coming up on like 15 years of that being Ruby on Rails. So I like Ruby on Rails a lot too. That's me.
I didn't quite realize how much of it was Ruby on Rails, but cool. Radia, on to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Radia. My pronouns are she, her. Are we saying the company? I guess I work for a company called Giant Machines. It's a digital product agency located in Lower Manhattan in New York City. I've been working here for about a year and a half now. The tech stack I work on is React with React, TypeScript, and Redux on the front end, Node Express with TypeORM and TypeScript on the back end, and we work with React Native and TypeScript on mobile. And we also do Postgres for our database. I think I like React a lot. And since React and React Native are basically the same thing, that coding mobile is fun too. Yeah, that's all for me.
I'll take the first opportunity to ask if anyone has any questions to start out before I just ask random things. And if you have any, if a question does come to mind, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll get to you, or use the raise hand feature, as you all know. So let's see. How did you choose what to learn in your coding journey? If that is even a thing. We're always on a journey.
Right. I guess I'll start. I mean, I guess I went to Flatiron School with Diana and Amanda, and we didn't have a choice. We learned React, I mean, React on the front end and Ruby on Rails on the back end. We had the option of learning Redux, but that was self-taught if you wanted to learn that. As far as like, if I got to choose where I'm working now, I sort of had a choice in the project that I worked on based on what I wanted to like do. So for me, I told them I wanted to be a full stack engineer and also mobile. So they put me on a project that had all of that. And that specific project had Node on the back end. We also work with, we also have projects that work with Java on the back end, as well as C# now. Yes, C#. I definitely don't want to work in C#. So yeah, I got blessed with Node. So that's how I decided.
Anyone else want to chime in?
What was the question? I'm so sorry.
I didn't phrase it well. Just if you did choose which path to take, how did you come to that decision?
Oh, sure. I mean, I genuinely, like Radia said, like we had two main frameworks that we learned at our boot camp, which I genuinely liked. But in the contracting world, you kind of, I mean, you can say like with government contracts, you can say like, I know these languages or these frameworks, like put me here, like please don't put me somewhere where I know absolutely nothing. And generally they'll listen to you. They won't just like ask you to know a brand new language like completely off guard. But more so the way that I pick my path is I follow devs that I really admire or like, or seniors that I really like that I can learn from. Because my brain doesn't do well just like reading documentation, like ingesting it and like then using it. Like I'm more of a hands-on learner. And so for me, if I can find teams where there are really great seniors that I can learn from, or really great group learning environments, those are the places I gravitate towards. So I'm learning things that I didn't think I would learn. But like yeah, it's kind of fun. But that's kind of the way that my path has been dictated thus far, is just trying to find mentorship and trying to learn from people smarter than me, because there's always someone smarter than me, and if you ask for that. But also I like React and it's fun. Something that's near and dear to my heart is 508 acceptability, which is the government standard. I'm sure other sectors use this too, but basically making sure that whatever you build is accessible to people with different abilities, whether using screen readers or different types of keyboards or anything like that. And I like React because it tends to be very friendly towards making things 508 accessible, because I think the internet's for everyone and I like building it that way. So I like React for that too. Other things are good for that too, but I just have fun with React doing that. So
Daniel, do you have any input?
On I'm so sorry, like on choosing front
Yeah,
end, back end, full
why do
stack.
you like why do you like Ruby on Rails? We'll move on to student questions after this that are better phrased.
Sure. Well, what I like, I think, is shipping working products to customers. I like hearing about customers using our products and how, wherever I am, how excited they are, or the value they get out of it, or that kind of thing. So I really like Ruby on Rails because it allows us to build out new features for them very, very quickly. So there's a lot of just like excitement and dopamine from like, we built it, we deployed it, they're using it, it's great. So that's part of why I really like Ruby on Rails.
All right. Well, the first question is, I asked you about Ruby on Rails. His first question is, why do you like React? So the React fans, if you want to take on that one.
I think it's I don't know, in my opinion, it's pretty straightforward. And then also because it's not vanilla JavaScript. So because that is quite the pain.
They're doing it
to
right now.
Sorry, enjoy. Hopefully once you're finished with that, you'll move on to React, which is much more palatable and fun to work with. But yeah, that's my reason.
I feel like I already answered that, but I really like it. I like making things accessible. React is, like Radia said, it's very friendly. People often say that Ruby or Rails is a very friendly app because Mats is a friendly person. I don't know if React was made quite by as equally friendly a person, but it is very approachable. And it's pretty readable, which is really handy when you're a noob. Being able to read things is really handy. So I do like that also.
While we're on those very direct questions, maybe Radia, do you have anything to say about Node?
Okay, Node is fine. Node Express is fine. It's when you start adding typo RM where things get a little dicey. So like, yeah, I don't mind. It's really easy to write because it's similar to like writing like JavaScript or like React. It's just the sister, right? So we have React on the front end. Node.js is the typical like back end for that because it's pretty much written similarly, I guess. So I don't have any qualms with Node. I have qualms with typo RM. But just the complexity is quite confusing, and I sometimes get tripped up and have to be reminded like how these things work. But generally Node is fine.
Or you mean like that stands for object relational mapping, that whole business? Okay, cool. Y'all don't have to worry about that yet, so don't worry about it. All right, next question is, what does your workday look like? Whoever wants to go first.
I can go first. No, does anyone else want to go first?
Go for it.
I guess generally my mornings start off with like a morning stand up. So I have my because I'm a contractor, because I'm a consultant within an agency, I have my agency's stand up, which is about 15 minutes, and then like my projects stand up, which is another 15 minutes. And depending on what time of the sprint it is, we'd have like different other meetings like product refinement, something backlog refinement, and then which is basically just pointing tickets. So work will be presented. We'll go through and discuss like how much effort and complexity this will be, and then point them, and then they'll based off of those points, they'll be put in certain sprints, and then we'll start on our sprints for like 2 weeks. And we have like sprint reviews at the end of the sprint, or at the end of one sprint going into the next one. And then I have heads down time for the work that I am working on, and then other meetings if they pertain, I guess, for that week. But yeah.
Pass too if you don't want to go through your day. But
I can talk to my typical day. It's looked different depending on what team I've been on. I've switched around throughout my year and a half in the industry. I haven't been in this industry very long. But typically right now, we don't use a super strict Agile framework. Agile is a way to kind of manage time and break it down into little bite-sized pieces. And we don't do that. So it's kind of like, here are all of the problems. Let's try and break these down ourselves. Like we don't have that existing structure. So typically I'll get on at 9 in the morning with a cup of coffee, try and pull anything in, see if anything changed after I logged off the previous night. I'll take a look at what we call the board, which is just a place where tickets live, and tickets are things that are created with like tasks, whether those are bugs that we found ourselves, features that like the clients that we're working for want added. It can be a bunch of things. Our 508 tester will find like if there's any 508 failings, or if like something isn't accessible, he'll make tickets for that. So I just check and make sure I haven't missed anything. I'll just start coding up a storm, because a fun fact and a little tip that I've started doing for myself is every night before I log off, I'll leave a little console log where I left off, saying like, start here, like looking at your code. Because when you log off and I have to shut my computer off every single night because it's like a government requirement. So when I wake my computer up in the morning, I'm like, I don't remember where I was last night. Like, I don't remember. So it's actually really helpful to like put that little beacon there of like, you left off right here. Thank you. And I'll usually code or troubleshoot or ask people for help. We also do a daily stand-up, which is like a 15-minute, just like, where are you at? Do you need any help? How are things going with your whole team? Sometimes I have meetings, mainly from stakeholders, which are the people that we're building these products for. And I usually just listen in those because I don't have a lot to say. And it's not super, some teams are like constant meetings and a lot of communication, and some are more, you kind of sit by yourself and you like get work done. It just depends on the team. So right now I'm in I sit by myself quietly doing work team, and I really like that because I can get way more done. That's kind of a typical day. Just doing stuff.
Yeah, I kind of group my days into 3 blocks or concepts. So the first one is, and they can go in any order. I'm just going to say the order they happen to go in for me, of processing the world that has changed around me. So reading pull requests, maybe providing feedback on other code changes that are being proposed, but mostly just like what's changing, what is changing in the code base, what's about to change, just like situational awareness of what's happening. Some of that is reading Slack messages or emails and that kind of thing too. What are people talking about that they're going to be changing? The second grouping or chunk is meetings, and most of those are going to be around like, here are some options we have, and hopefully let's make a decision by the end of the meeting. It doesn't always happen that way. That's the goal. Let's make a decision so we don't have to have another meeting. And then the third chunk is actually like focusing on a piece of work and getting to like think through and what are the next steps? How do I want to code this? How do I want to build this out? What are we missing? What are kind of the options we have here? So as I've kind of had different roles in different organizations, some of the kinds of problems I'm solving have definitely changed, but I've always found like familiarity and a sense of ritual because those 3 groupings have always been the same.
Cool. Well, Matt has joined us. This is our 4th guest today. If you want to introduce yourself, name, pronouns, what tech stacks you work with at your job, and which one's your favorite, and anything else you want to add.
Sure. Again, apologies for being late. There was something that came up, but yeah, my name's Matt. I pretty much go by he or him, and let me see, my tech stack. It's kind of hard to say since I'm more client focused, but I guess you could say JavaScript and Python. And yeah, pretty much I work in like the ad tech like kind of company. I work in an ad tech company type deal, and pretty much my day-to-day work life is kind of odd because sometimes it'll be like, oh, we need you to hop on a call to like help a client integrate with our system, and other times it'd be like, can you help troubleshoot their code on their like website, that sort of deal. So sometimes it depends. In terms of like if I have any type of like meetings with my own team, it's like once a week, and it's for like a whole hour going over what we've done for that week, plus anything else that they like to talk about, that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's pretty much me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Great. Well, welcome. So the next question is, how did you find your first position? What hints or tips can you share around networking?
Me or anyone.
Anyone
Oh,
or all?
I guess I'll go first since I spoke up. Let me see. How did I find my job? How did I find them? I think they kind of found me, in a way. So one time, I think when I was going through job interviews, Creo kind of reached out to me, saw that I was interested in like the technical solutions role. So they helped set me up with like interviews that way. In terms of like, I guess, networking and stuff like that nature, again, that's another hard question to answer because I just threw myself out there. I was like, hey, you got any jobs for me? Like, let me know, like that sort of thing. But to be fairly honest, I asked a lot of questions. I asked a lot of people like, hey, if you know anyone that needs someone for this specific like job, let me know. Or just pretty much just spoke to a lot of random people. And honestly, I felt like that was the best way of getting into the industry because you'll be surprised. A lot of people are very nice. Like if you approach them, tell them like, hey, I like looking to get into the tech industry. They may not have like a job position that can like recommend you to, but they'll help you along the way by giving you friendly advice, things that they did, and so on and so forth. So pretty much connect with people through LinkedIn, connect through people through events, that sort of nature, because a lot of people in tech are, or most people that I've met have been pretty cool. So you'll be surprised.
Right. I guess along that line, I'll answer, but then I have to drop because I have to head out. But I got my job through a fellowship program that Flatiron that put together. So they kind of, I guess, referred me with my resume because I had never heard of this company before. But then I went through the four-step process and then got the job. But generally, the way I went about applying for jobs, I pretty much applied for anything that seemed interesting to me. I did the take home for Twitter. I did the one for, well, not Twitter, the one for Lyft. I went out for JP Morgan. Like I did whatever I was like, whatever, I'm gonna do it all. And I think generally as long as you have like projects and you have all your whole portfolio on LinkedIn or some other website accessible to people through whatever job board, as long as you have your projects up there and there's some explanation behind it and your GitHub and stuff, generally you'll end up getting, people will generally reach out to you, right? So yeah, I mean, doing that, and then a lot of doing practice problems on hackering for data structures and algorithms, all that jazz. It's really painful process. So I did that hardcore for like 2 months before I found my position. But then I also, as far as networking, because I've had my LinkedIn for years at this point, so I had a pretty large network. I sent out a lot of things in my network and then also posted on my Facebook, which I feel like no one uses anymore. And but my friends do. And then also my Instagram, and then whatever you get, like you get leads. I got leads from other friends who were like, oh yeah, they're not technical, but their company is technical, or they have these technical roles, like what about this, and they give me all these suggestions. So network is really important. You never know who you're connected with on any type of social platform that can get you just a foot in the door at any company, really. So that would be my suggestion on networking and applying and stuff. But thank you so much for listening to me. I don't know. Hopefully this is helpful, and it was great to meet all of you. I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye, Radia. She's awesome. I can speak to that a little bit too. Kind of similar to Radia, I had a scholarship going into the boot camp from a local company in DC. And so that's actually the company I work for now. But there wasn't really a guarantee that I would work for them. It really worked out. So in that way, my circumstance was kind of unique. But I will say, like, I really tried to buff up my LinkedIn profile, and somehow just used all the right, like, kind of, what is it? Not ping words. I used all the right words, I guess, that it attracted a lot of recruiters. So definitely spend time like really making LinkedIn or any sort of professional representation of yourself like really well fleshed out, because that's your first introduction, like cold contact to anyone. I also interview, or I used to, they changed the requirements of who's allowed to interview anymore. But I used to interview a lot of people for people coming into the company I work at. And the first thing I did every time was check their LinkedIn, check their GitHub, like look at what they're up to. And let that not solely inform me, but it was a good like first glance of like, who is this person? Like, what are they up to? What are they interested in? How often are they doing new things? So LinkedIn is really valuable. When it comes to networking, there are, now that we live in this like virtual age, there are virtual job fairs as well as in-person job fairs. And those can be great because you know that the people there are like looking to hire people because they're coming to a job fair, like looking to hire new people. So those can be really handy. That was a tip I got from a friend because I had never thought about job fairs for some reason before. But there are in-person ones now that the world is a little bit more in person. And there are virtual ones as well. You can look at one specifically for tech or for your local area or for there. If you Google stuff, like there's always something. And kind of like what Radia was saying is people are really nice. Most time. I mean, obviously you're gonna get those like outliers of people who either ghost you or don't want to give you the time of day or actually have something mean to say, but that's not really been my experience most generally. If you see like a company is hiring and you're interested in that, what I would often do is like find on LinkedIn like a dev that worked at that company and just message them on LinkedIn and be like, hey, like I'm interested in this position. What can you tell me about the company? Like, what do you have to say? Like just kind of starting a conversation, because employees get financial benefit if they refer you to get hired there. They get paid. So they want to help you get a job if they like you, because everyone wins. So it's a kind of like a no risk situation. Like if you make them mad, like you'll never see them again. And if you strike up a good conversation, it can be really beneficial mutually. So it's pretty nice. I recommend that. You have nothing to lose really. Twitter also is a great place. It kind of levels the playing field, like anyone's kind of accessible on Twitter. So those are things I've learned. I rant a lot.
I just want to echo what Amanda just said. Like definitely if you see jobs you're interested in or you think might be a fit, apply for them. But I would when I'm looking, and I would encourage everyone, set as a goal, like you want somebody on the inside who's going to get you past move you further in across the pipeline, like automatically. You don't want to be your resume in front of a recruiter that's going to be reading 100 resumes that same hour. Like you've got to figure out a way to hack it so that you're already further along and have an advocate inside. I would definitely say yes, websites are huge. Don't overthink them. I have this trouble. I always overthink everything, or like it's got to be polished, or I've got to have some like incredible magical insight. But no, like demonstrate that you know how to ship software, you know how to ship a website, you've got projects on GitHub, retweet stuff on Twitter, like log in a few times a week and demonstrate like you're engaged, link all of those from your resume, so that when a hiring manager can answer a lot of those questions just kind of right out of the gate. Has this person shipped a project before? Is this person kind of involved in what's changing and learning new things? Is this person interested in software? So yes, those are all wonderful things to do.
Awesome. It's a little for when you do look at for jobs anyway. You have more class left. So focus on learning first. Next question we kind of answered, but this is phrased better. So if anyone wants to elaborate more, I'll read it. Did you all see yourselves in the current role you are taking on? And if not, what specifically prompted you to take the path that you're on or that you're learning on? If anyone has any more insights on that?
Um,
Okay. Oh yeah, Matt, you were in here. Go for it.
I guess this question was asked, but yeah, it's kind of weird, but I didn't really see myself as a technical solutions engineer per se. It's kind of a jumping point for where you want to go. So essentially, just a little bit of background, just the role itself, it's both client side and also a little bit of coding with it, or just have a little bit technical know-how. So essentially, you're more so helping troubleshoot with clients' needs and all that type of jazz. But I didn't really see myself in the role, but I'm actually enjoying it a lot. It might not be a software engineer role, but it's still a good tech adjacent type role where you can learn and be exposed to other things within the tech like world. And it helps jumpstart you to get into like other positions and other roles that you may be interested in that you probably didn't even think of existed until you actually got into a role that you didn't think of. So if that makes sense, but yeah.
I guess I will put in some input. Just that, like I started off this workshop saying it kind of doesn't matter which route you take, as long as you stick to it and commit yourself to learning it, because you're going to be learning for the rest of your career, and that's kind of the beauty of this field. And I used to teach martial arts, so what we always said was like, your black belt is the start of your journey, because there's 8 more degrees of black belt for you to get, and that's like really when you start to understand how you even want to grow. So I don't know if many people have an answer to why they took a specific path. You just kind of see what you like, try it. If you don't like it, try something else. If you do, dig in. Okay, next question. This is fun. Have you ever had code that needed to be rolled back after release?
You mean since like lunch or?
Yeah. I kind of want to just be like, yes.
Yeah. Like this week or like ever or like yeah. Yes. The answer is yes. Especially when you're trying to be fast. That's when I make the most mistakes and if I'm not testing thoroughly. But rolling back, at least for us, it's not a huge deal. You can just poke a couple buttons and it'll reset to like the previous commit or version of master or whatever. So as long as you don't delete databases permanently, most things can be fixed.
I've done that. I've deleted
I was like, even
databases
if you
permanently.
do.
And I would my experience is most organizations kind of have like a separate SRE, site reliability engineering or DevOps team or department these days. So like for me personally, I don't even have access to delete the database anymore, which is great. It's definitely a load off of my mind.
Yeah, they don't give me access to prod. I could delete like staging instances, but they don't let me touch prod because that's way too dangerous.
Yeah, but like as far as generally there's going to be a playbook or a handbook for like, here's how you roll back. You're going to have support from other engineers. Like usually we'll have several of us on a Zoom. So it's kind of like a teamwork thing. Usually it's set up so that even if you're working on the rollback, you have an engineering manager or some other person appointed to manage communication around the organization. So you may have to talk to one person and be like, okay, I'm rolling this back and I think this is going to resolve a thing, and like explain that, but you don't have to be like oh my goodness, I have to update 72 Slack channels and the CEO on what's happening, because that'll all happen. That'll all happen for you. And most of the time, in my experience, most people don't actually like notice the errors too much, or they just kind of expect it, or whatever the case may be. And like, you get it fixed and then they try again, and everybody's pretty used to that in software. Everybody likes to think software is really polished and works really well. And everywhere I've worked, it's awful, but we try to make it better.
Yep.
Do you have anything equivalent, Matt?
Yes, sort of, maybe. Essentially,
I guess
so,
essentially the question is, have you ever had a mistake that you needed to fix?
I mean, definitely. Like, so we use multiple different plugins for like implementing tags on people's websites. So one of them is like GTM, another Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, stuff of those natures. So there are times where a client would ask me to make a few changes to our script in the tags in like GTM. And I would do it, but then something will break on their site. And I'm like, oh no. So they would have to either go back to the previous save of how their tags were, or didn't have tags at all on the website. And I would have to redo everything that I've done, or delete the script to put in our old one and see if that will work out for them. So.
Awesome. Just wanted to add that a lot of this rolling back and kind of seamless fixing happens when you have a solid Git workflow. So I want y'all to keep practicing. It's gonna be awkward for a little while, but it's really important to get used to it, and also get used to fixing things, because that's part of the job as well. Let's see, any interview advice and/or tips?
Don't panic. I mean, essentially, what you want to do during interviews is just be your natural self. And I'm not talking about just like be true, like cool and nonchalant. I'm talking about actually be professional and like show like you have interest, be actively listening. And whenever they ask you, because sometimes they'll obviously throw like really weird questions at you, try to have like either a good response or just, I don't know about that, but this is how I think about it in terms of like, this is how I believe I will go about it in that sort of way. Like, say if they ask you, what are your goals, like career goals? Like sometimes most people don't really know where they want to head. Like they're just like, oh, I just want to be a software engineer. Sometimes they want to know what's past that. What do you see yourself in the next couple of years, whether in the company or just in general? Just make sure you have like some type of like backup answer to it, or just you're thinking about it, because they like to see like you're actively want more for yourself in the field than just being a software engineer.
Nathaniel, I feel like you could probably speak to this best since you're the most one with the most experience.
Yeah, I was kind of mulling on if I really want to phrase my response this way. Everybody, we kind of have this I guess culture of like, oh, politicians, like they never give a straight answer. They just answer the question that they wish the news reporter had asked. But and there's definitely some truth to that, but I do think there's a tiny like kernel of wisdom there, where like I've been on the side of also hiring engineers, and like I can tell you the questions are there to prompt conversation and discussion. So this is really difficult. I am not good at this. I'm trying to get better at this, but there's definitely I think a lot of value if you're able to say, okay, I'm not going to necessarily answer the question directly as it was asked. I'm going to try to use that as a springboard for like, I want to talk about this relevant thing that I know I'm good at, or I've had success with, or this project that I did, or whatever helps me sell myself, kind of, and say this is what I've done in the past, and I think I can keep doing things like this with you and with this organization in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that. As someone who has been both on like the side of the table being interviewed, and as someone who's sat on the side of the table interviewing potential candidates. Really, they're just making sure that like you're a good fit, especially for entry-level jobs. Like when you're being interviewed for an entry-level job, like they don't expect you to like know like the most niche, random, specific fact, or like be able to like, I don't know, they don't have like these like real unrealistic expectations for your coding skill, but they're making sure like you're a team player, you're communicative, you're organized. Things that I really tried to be transparent about and I looked for in candidates is if they're willing to admit when they didn't know something, because it's way easier to like help someone learn something new than try and like peel back layers of like inauthenticity or like fakeness. So I was always honest in my interviews, like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that. Or I don't know what that is. Or, I'm aware of what that is. I bought a Udemy course on it, but I haven't taken it yet. Like I was always honest about those things. Because it's way better to be honest than to like claim you can do something and then get to the job and then ultimately you can't. In my interview for the first role that I had, I just told them I was really nervous because I was. I was so flustered because they told me there would not be a coding challenge. They said, submit a piece of code and we'll walk through it with you and you can explain how you made whatever. And then I get there, they never got the code sample and they're like, all right, here's a whiteboard challenge. And I'm like, I wasn't ready for this. So I just communicated that I was nervous and I think it helped them also like work with me. So I don't know, that's not maybe the best approach for everyone, that it worked for me because I was like, you're going to see me sweat. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous. And it's okay to be nervous. You can still do things while you're scared. But yeah, just be honest, show that you can communicate. I have a lot of stories if you want them of reasons why I didn't hire people or contribute to the decision to hire someone. I wasn't the only person signing the paper or why I didn't, I don't know, but I rambled.
Just to build off of that a little bit, another tool is if you think you can know, if you think you know something, or you think maybe you know it or it sounds familiar, like I'll say, oh, I think that's the MV Unix utility, but I've only got 70% confidence on that. So that allows you to demonstrate like you're familiar with it. Maybe you don't know it off the top of your head, which is totally fine. I have to Google stuff every 10 minutes.
Yep.
But it also demonstrates you are willing to stand up and say, I think it might be this, we can investigate it this, but I'm not sure. And being willing to say, I'm not sure is a very rare skill in this industry and really valuable.
Yes. Also, just be kind to everyone in the interview. Very rarely are you in an interview with a single person. Usually it's it's like two or more people. Be nice to all of them because that really matters. Not that, it's just also something I watch is like, if the candidate is male, is he talking to me at all? Or is he only talking to the other male interviewer? Like stuff like that really matters because you have to show that you can work in environments full of all kinds of people. Which I hope is the case for all these. I don't know any of you guys individually, but stuff like that really matters. At least to me personally, that's something I noticed. I'm like, he didn't address me once. Like, anyway, I'm done.
Well, that was great. And Frank's been giving good input in the chat, mostly around you won't get good at interviews until you're bad at them first. I like that. There's a lot of practice that's involved. I feel like, yes, my first 3 interviews were probably disasters compared to my next few, but I learned from them, and that's really the kind of mindset, the growth mindset that you have to keep and maintain throughout the job search process and really throughout everything. You're not going to be amazing the first time, and once you get over that, everything feels a lot better. I think there's one more question that was in the chat, and keep them coming if you have them. This one was very specific about TypeScript, if I recall. Oh, okay. What are the 2 main differences that you employ and enjoy about TypeScript versus JavaScript? Does anyone here use TypeScript, or is that just a Radia thing? Missed out.
That's the goal.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's in the name. Everything's typed, and like in theory, that makes things better. I like it in theory. I haven't worked with it too much.
It just makes it more readable to know what type the string or variable is. So
yeah, it makes debugging easier because it helps you identify why there might be something buggy.
Yeah,
I haven't worked with it enough to like really shout its praises or not. I just have worked with it very loosely.
yeah, pretty much same instance.
Well, we can see. I lost my question sheet, so we can just move on to parting thoughts, and we can always circle back to other questions if you have it. So, as you know, a majority of the people on this call who don't work for Code the Dream are intro students. They're still learning, and then beyond that, they have to find jobs, and beyond that, they have to maintain steam in learning more and more about their chosen field and growing. So, do you have any tips for either how to learn, um, how to keep your morale up, or if you want to give more about the job search?
Uh, let's see. I mean, I guess I could be transparent. It took me a while to get my job. Like I've only been at my job for about 10 months now. It's about to be a year and couple of months. Uh, in terms of morale, I'd say keep a close knit with if any of you guys are talking within this, I guess, cohort, keep close with them. Just talk with them, see how they're doing, and just making sure that you're constantly just have each other's back and set like small meetings you can have with each other to talk to one another, see what you guys did over the week, what you guys want to do, stuff of that nature, what are your goals, like how are things going with the interview process, stuff of that nature. And essentially just keep each other accountable as well as yourself. Because yeah, it's rough and we want to make sure that you guys understand like it's going to have tough times, but as long as you all stick to it and as long as you all are on good terms with one another and you can able to have those type of experiences with each other, then it'll be okay. It'll be okay. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think I would maybe try to model the journey as like setting up systems and habits and friends and recurring calendar events and any supporting things I can think of around the concept of like continue growing and continue learning. I'm still growing and still learning, and I've been doing this for 20 years. That's it. Like that's what I signed up for. I'm gonna keep learning, hopefully, and keep growing until I stop doing this, whenever that is. And so be kind to yourself. It's not a matter of cramming in dictionaries and API docs and every refactoring methodology book that you can find. It's how do I build a sustainable life to where I'm continually growing and learning things for years and years and years. And also a little bit of how do I demonstrate that I'm committed to that journey of growing to potential employers. Because I can tell you when they're talking about hiring engineers that are just getting started on the journey, that's the only thing they're talking about. The only thing they're talking about is, are these people demonstrating that they're committed to joining our organization and continuing the journey?
Well said. I like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I think fall in love with learning. Everyone learns differently, so I won't say how to go about learning. One of my mentors, he said, like, you know, you can either go T-shaped or I-shaped, like go really broad and know very little about a lot of different things, or go really deep and know a whole lot about one particular thing. I kind of don't do either. I feel like I learn random things about random things, and then I go deeper with like I don't know, like everyone learns differently, and I guess I'm not very good at like delineating between the two. I just kind of like to learn stuff. I saw a question in the chat, like, do I come from a tech background? No. My degree is in nutrition and exercise science, so I have no business being here, except that I love learning. So that's all that I continue to love learning. Definitely lean on your support system because it is tough making the switch. And also, I think I saw someone else say, like, be proud of your previous experiences and like your non-tech back. Like I am, like, I love what I did before this. Well, I like tech more, but you know, I'm not upset that I did nutrition first. But yeah, it's always fun. I think it can be really harmful, at least for me, to compare myself to, like, if I compared myself to Diana, like I wouldn't like match up at all. Like she's a genius. But actually I was doing this literally earlier today. I was sitting at my desk at the end of the day and I'm like, compared to where I was 1 year ago, like personally, I have grown like immeasurably. Like it's incredible. So I think it's helpful to refer back to like how far you personally have come rather than comparing yourself to other people. Because if you continue to learn, like you're always going to impress yourself. Like honestly, it's so fun to look back. But it can get a little worse for wear if you're always comparing yourself to either your classmates, people you see online, other devs, you know, whatever. Because everyone learns differently at different speeds and picks up on different things at different rates. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
I know. I was going to bring up that as an actual great last question because it's applicable to everyone on this call. If any of you did not come from a coding background, which I mean, I'm guessing you mean school, like college, any recommendations on making the transition both professionally and personally?
I think my statement still stands, like passion speaks. If you're passionate about it and you continue learning, like things will follow suit. And people will see that when you're interviewing, when you're interacting with people, whether it's in a professional interview setting or not. So yeah. I don't know. Can I answer this question that's in the chat?
Go for it.
How did I explain the difference on the interview of why my degree says nutrition, but now I'm in tech? Honestly, I painted the picture from the perspective of loving to learn. Yeah, my career journey like makes 0 sense on paper. And to me, honestly, still it makes a little bit 0 sense. Like I got a degree in nutrition, and then after college, I worked as a chemist because the body is chemistry and I could do that. And I loved learning and it was fun to learn new things. And then I got bored of that and I became a microbiologist because it was kind of similar and I'm good at learning patterns. And then I got bored with that and I worked for a different company that made satellites. And then I got bored of that and I went into tech. So, but all like, see, it doesn't make any sense. And we could, it's fine. You don't need to know the whole life story, but that's basically it. Is like, I loved learning. And there was kind of like the history of my career showed that like in all these different fields, I kind of topped out of what I could learn in that given role. And the only way to go was to actually change industries. But when I found tech, there's no limit to what you can learn within the industry. And granted, in science, that's absolutely, in satellites, that's absolutely the case too. But with the roles I was given, there really wasn't room to grow. And in tech, there's a lot more opportunities to grow. So I painted it from that perspective of like, I just love learning and like, I love seeing patterns and fitting knowledge into those patterns that are replicable. And that's literally what coding languages are. So it just makes sense in my brain. Yeah. It's weird.
Daniel, want to give any input?
Oh, yeah, that's tricky because I got started in tech really young, but I guess I'll just say some of the absolute best engineers I've worked with in my career switched over from other careers. So like, don't let that stop you by any means.
Oh yeah. Like every job requires skills, like waiting tables, being a bus driver, like being a daycare worker, any like you can definitely identify skills even in these roles that don't feel associated, because all of them take structure, discipline, learning skills, communication. You can communicate all of those things and translate them all to the tech industry as well. So no role is like discountable or like, oh, that's not good enough to talk about. Like you need skills to do stuff and you have the skills. So you can identify them. Sorry, my cat. That's fine.
Yeah, everything's transferable as long as you know how to sell yourself. So
Yeah.
It's hear from me plenty, so I don't need to go into that right now because they'll hear from me later. I think it's a good time to wrap up, unless maybe if anyone from Code the Dream thinks I'm missing something big in this info session.
If we do have any of the advanced students on the call that want to share how their experience has been in their advanced classes, I think that would be valuable input from students who are already in the next step that these intro students will be going to. I guess there's either nobody on the call or everybody's being shy. Yeah, that's okay.
Cool.
Sorry, Diana, one other thing to add. So for any intro students, you can always look ahead of time at the curriculum if you're trying to decide. So I would recommend taking a look at weeks 1 or 2 of the Node class or the React class. Those are the ones that come immediately off of your Eridanus Intro class. If you're wanting Ruby on Rails, you can definitely do that, but we won't have another Ruby on Rails class until September. So just know that you'll have a gap to be able to work on some mini projects and self-improvement and all that kind of stuff until the Ruby on Rails class starts in September. But feel free to take a look at any of those curricula that are on the learn.codethedream.org site.
Yeah. And I'm sure if you had any specific questions, you could match you up with another student, or you can ask one of us or one of the other cohort leaders. We can get really anything sorted out. But yes, thank you all for coming. Amanda, Nathaniel, Matthew, or Matt. I never called you Matthew in my life. Matt. Thanks so much. This is very insightful, even for me, because I haven't caught up with y'all in a while. So yeah, I did save the chat. So any questions we didn't get to, I'll pass along to our guest today, or I'll take a stab at them myself. So yeah, hope you all have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.